Now, our first panel is going to look at insights and entry points to existing and future agribusiness development programs. And so it's a pleasure to introduce a facilitator who's a private sector development specialist. I'll embarrass her by saying I know her father, and so I'll be reporting on her performance here today.
No pressure.
Ladies and gentlemen, please give a warm welcome to Onassis Kinte Walker.
So thanks everyone for joining us today. As mentioned earlier, the objective for this is insights and entry points into existing and future agribusiness and development programs. So for this panel, I'm in good company. I would like to first start by introducing Tom Sakatia. He is a private sector advisor to DFID, and he is responsible for implementing DFID's next private sector development program in Sierra Leone. To his right, we have Suleiman Sase. He's the project coordinator for smallholder commercialization and agribusiness development project funded by the World Bank. Next to him, we have Mr. Hugh Kwegu-Beza. He's the team leader for Sierra Leone Agribusiness Development Fund. And next to Hugh, we have Tom Roberts. He has been working in agribusiness for a very long time. He's here with World Vision. And last but not least, we have Mr. Kenneth Derrick Johnson from the African Development Bank. He is here to talk about two of the bank's key pillars, which include feeding Africa and industrializing Africa. So can you please give a round of applause to the panelists? So I think we'll start easy. I would just like them to introduce their programs and tell us how this relates to agribusiness and the diaspora. Can we start with Tom, please?
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. So some of you might be aware of our previous private sector development program, SODA, which worked quite a lot in agriculture, helping smallholder farmers increase their productivity. Our new program is going to have a much broader scope. We're going to focus on the tradable sector, which is Sierra Leone, so companies that can export and import substitution. So in Sierra Leone, that's broadly agriculture, including agri-processing, tourism, light manufacturing, and fisheries. But obviously, with such a high proportion of people working in agriculture here, we're going to have a large focus on agribusiness. So our program will do two things broadly. It will work to support markets, to support firms, to grow, to employ more people here. But also work on the business enabling environment, which is something that the last program did less work on. So there are a number of external constraints to firms that, as were mentioned in the video, in fact, that prevent them from growing. So we want to work with the government to help to try and solve some of these. Thank you.
Okay. The SCADA program, Smallholder Commercialization and the Business Development Project. From the introduction, we had its World Bank funded program, and it's been done in partnership with, fortunately, the FID for some components of the program. What we do is basically to help commercialize agriculture, and this is done by fostering those linkages between smallholder farmers and agribusiness farmers. And this project is building up on earlier interventions in the sector, but realizing that the focus should really be, as we target the smallholder farmers, it's better we do that through promoting those linkages that are there between the small farmers and the agribusinesses, because we expect the agribusinesses to know better ways, have access to better ways of doing things, which they will now use to develop the small farmers as well, and to promote that symbiotic relationship between the two. So whilst the agribusinesses would give their experience, give access to improve planting materials to the small farmers will also use that knowledge and their access to inputs to produce more and supply their agribusinesses, because they need to also meet their processing capacities. And in the end, also support both of them to market the commodities that they produce. I think that's the key thrust of the program. And in doing that, we address the key issues of access to finance through different windows, which we might have an opportunity to go into, We also help link the farmers to markets to feedables that we do. Also supporting the government and the private sector as well to coordinate the efforts of the two players, the private sector and the small farmers. Basically, in a nutshell, that's what the project does. We'll have an opportunity to go deeper into that areas. Thank you.
Good morning, everybody. Our project, the Leone Agribusiness Development Fund, is actually one of the components of the project Sulaiman mentioned, SCADEP. Now we actually implement a financing window, ours is a financing window, and it's managed from KPMG, and obviously SCADEP is funded by the World Bank. What we do is provide grants. We provide grants to agribusinesses, but the ultimate beneficiary is, or are the smallholder farmers or outgrowers. Because as Sulaiman just mentioned, we want a win-win situation wherein the agribusiness, that's a company that's in agriculture, usually a processor, but sometimes they also have their own nucleus farms. They have to work with an appreciable number of smallholder farmers. When I say appreciable, let me just give you an idea. For example, in rice, the rice farmers or the grantees that we have already, or that we are funding, most of them are working with a minimum of about 2,000 to 3,000 smallholder farmers. So that's sort of appreciable. Although in poultry, it's smaller, probably up to about 50, 100 smallholder farmers. So we're trying to encourage or build up a relationship between agribusinesses and smallholder farmers. And as Sulaiman just said, it's a win-win situation, and that is where, for example, I see as an entry point for those in the diaspora who do not want to, who are not here, well, obviously in the diaspora, who cannot apply or unable to apply directly, maybe because they're not here to directly supervise, but at least they can invest in helping an applicant, an agribusiness applicant, meet their matching contribution. Maybe before I hand over to Tom, just one more. One of the objectives also of our project is to catalyze commercial financing for agribusiness. And I think we're happy to, well, I'm happy to let you know that we have 9 grantees at the moment from the first round. And at least about half of them have been able, because they're getting our grants, have been able to, or will be able to access bank loans. Some of them have already got bank loans and other commercial investments. So I would like to think that we're already we've started meeting some of our objectives. I'll stop there and hand over.
Good morning. Mine is just the broad strokes of what we have been doing rather than any specific project that we have going forward. The focus of, well, let me talk about my personal experience working for the organization. It's been more to make farmers visible. I remember when I first came back in 2003, speaking with a lot of the business people and the private sector. There was this consistent drum of there are no farmers. We don't see the farmers. Or rather, we don't want to see the farmers. And this environment was not actually useful for either themselves or the producers. So the focus of my experience has been to make farmers visible through, informal institutions and then formalizing them, like farmer field schools, and clustering them and helping them to register as, farmer-owned businesses, and then linking them to markets, getting them to work along the value chain. During that time, we also realized that not much attention was being paid to women, really own the businesses or enterprises in the rural community. So we had also to find a way to actually make them visible and make them look good so that investors can actually talk to them. It's hard for external people to talk to a farmer-based organization that is not really a legal business. If I am bringing in some money, I would hesitate to work with a farmer-based organization because it's just an organization, it's not a business entity. And we've been working around this policy issue. I remember a long time ago, FAO and ourselves were, kind of talking to the government to look at the old cooperative law and try to, put in a few things and change the cooperative law so that entities that were being put up, like farmer groups that were successful, savings groups that were good and had a lot of money, would actually form their own companies. And we actually cited the different countries. India had the same. Remember, all the British colonies had cooperatives. But a lot of these colonies have actually gone back and reformed that policy to encourage the growth in the rural communities so that those people who are there, who are the small farmers, can easily transform themselves into businesses. But this is an environment that we still have in our country that I think will help us, change the landscape and make farmers be able to link up successfully with businesses. And I tell you, it's something else that we need to do is to look at our women. Now, when they go to the banks for loans, they have to go with their uncles or their aunts or their husbands and brothers. It's untenable. So we need to clean up all of these. It's not that these people are not hardworking. They are good entry points, very hardworking. Look at the short video that we just saw. Most of them are women. They're good business people, but it's so difficult for them to link up to these, businesses, investors, and stuff like that because we don't expose them. But these are possible. These are potent entry points that people from the diaspora can link up to. They are doing potato leaves and cassava leaves. Well, we eat cassava leaves and potato leaves here as well. So it's a market, but you don't see it here. You don't see the good products here. You only see it in London, but you also need it here. So these are points that we need to look at. These are the entities, the community entities that we also need to look at and develop so that they too can access finance, access credit, and do formal business with the diaspora and with different enterprises that are out there.
The African Development Bank is Africa's bank. The African Development Bank is Africa's premier development bank. So what that means is that we coordinate, we organize, we implement, and we assist in the execution of various projects. As the premier development bank, it is a role that we take very, very seriously. It is both an honor and an awesome responsibility. We believe that Africa's development rests squarely on our shoulders, working in coordination and in collaboration with both the public sector and the private sector. So let me just briefly give you an overview of what the bank does, and then I'll drill down specifically to Sierra Leone. So the bank has what we call the high fives. The high fives are 5 critical priorities that the bank has laid out. The first being power and light up Africa. The second, feed Africa. The third, industrialize Africa. The fourth, integrate Africa. And finally, improve the quality of life of Africans. Now, many, if not all, of the African countries can benefit from all of these 5 priorities. I know for sure that Sierra Leone can benefit from all of them. So, how do we move Africa from the richest continent in terms of natural resources, but the poorest in terms of GDP? Ladies and gentlemen, the one word there is transformation. Africa, we have got to stop exporting raw materials. There is tremendous opportunity to be had when we add value before we export. That is an entry point for the diaspora. That is an entry point for many local entrepreneurs. And we are singularly focused on ensuring that if we are going to improve the lives of Africans, if we are going to industrialize this continent, it is essential, it is vital that we add value to our natural resources before they are exported. So, what does that look like? And what are the critical sectors? Well, let's take Sierra Leone. Sierra Leone has plentiful diamonds and other minerals, but they get exported in its raw form. I'm working on a project right now in Abidjan where I'm looking at cocoa for both Côte d'Ivoire and Ghana. Combined, they produce 2/3 of the world's cocoa beans. In a market that is $100+ billion a year, they only derive 6 to 7% of that. So the answer there is value addition. It means helping them to produce, even if it's not a finished chocolate product initially, producing cocoa butter, producing cocoa powder, producing cocoa liqueur. So this is the transformative path that Africa needs if we are going to be a prosperous continent. Now, specifically in Sierra Leone, I'll be brief because I know the time is very short. Specifically in Sierra Leone, the World Bank is working on a number of projects. In the water sector, they're working in both Penang and Penny to improve rural water supplies. From the power sector, we're also looking at interconnectivity of the power supply, essentially within the non-River Union countries, Sierra Leone, Liberia, Côte d'Ivoire, and Guinea. From the roads perspective, there are a number of roads that the bank is helping to build. We looked at the Matutoka Yoyi Road, we looked at the McKinney Connor Road. Those have been completed. You're looking at the Trans-West African Highway, which is ongoing. We're looking at the Lunge-Port Locker Road, which has been completed. But let's go back to Agri now, very quickly. If somebody from the diaspora wants to get involved in rice, it's basically a plug-and-play situation. The zones are there, the enabling environment is there, so you come with your factory and you're ready to go. Ease of business. We also have a very important flagship program called TAAT, T-A-A-T, Technologies for African Agricultural Transformation. This area will leverage technology to support farmers, using technology to provide them with the best possible seeds. We also are focusing on electronic agricultural data and payment platform. Again, leveraging technology and electronic enablers to support farmers. We are very mindful that the youth in Sierra Leone are very anxious to move forward. We are very mindful of that. So we also have a program called Enable Youth Program. Next slide, please. This is an example of the right-hand side. It's an example of what a staple commodities processing zone, otherwise known as SCPCs, is all about. And here you have that image. So, ladies and gentlemen, I ran through this very quickly. I'll be available for questions, but I do have some questions for you. One of which is, we at the African Development Bank don't want to be overly prescriptive. We also want to hear and listen to what the private sector is saying. And so we have a couple of questions. The first being, where is the most appropriate site to locate an agro-industrial zones in Sierra Leone? That is not a rhetorical question. Come to me, come to any of my colleagues. Let us talk about that. We want to hear from you. We want you to be part of this. We want co-ownership here. The next question is, what incentives does the private sector expect when investing in Sierra Leone? To the extent that we can help you remove obstacles, we are here, willing, able, and ready to do so. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for that overview. We're going to move on to questions now. I will urge the panelists to be brief as I'm cognizant of the time. So my first question goes to Tom from Difford & Hugh. Could you please outline the Diaspora's involvement so far in your programs and your funds, and how do you see this shaping up in the future?
Thank you, I'll be very brief. So yes, in the past, our previous program, as I mentioned, SOBA, we did employ a few Diaspora, and it was really beneficial to have that insight. I think Diaspora bring not just sort of cultural understanding, but an understanding of the politics, of course, as a language, and I think something that Sierra Leone has suffered from since Ebola times, been people flying in for a couple of weeks and flying back out for a few months. Those Diaspora are more likely to stay here and actually really get to know the context. So in our previous programs, we haven't necessarily, our previous private sector development program did employ Diaspora, but it wasn't necessarily a sort of intentional objective. For our upcoming program, it will be, and we will want to engage people in the country, but also in the UK and Europe to contribute their skills to the program.
Yeah, thank you, Onassis. In terms of the Diaspora involvement, there have been a few, certainly in terms of applications, there have been a few direct applications. Off the top of my head, I can think of just one that was successful or has been successful so far as a grantee, and there's still another chance in this second round. But basically, we have had applicants who have come in from the Diaspora and have set up, especially in oil palm and rice, have set up agribusinesses and are looking for funding. They come with their own money, so that's an entry point for a lot of them. But some of them also have applied in terms of, as Mr. Johnson said, in terms of value addition, things like packaging and adding value. So as partners of an existing or larger local business firm here. So far that's what we see.
Thank you both for your questions. So my next question, my next question I will direct both to Suleiman and Hugh. I understand that you both are currently working on both World Bank funded projects, and it would be interesting to understand how you tackle the key barriers to agribusinesses, and what strategic areas do you think people from the Diaspora can come in to help these key barriers?
Okay. Well, I think it's useful to mention that the programs we work on are pretty much the same programs. The SLADIF, the Agribusiness Development Fund, is one of the funding windows within the SCADEP program, because the SCADEP looks at a broader picture beyond just the issue of finance to agribusinesses. So much of the discussion as it relates to the SLADIF, I will leave that to Kwiku, who manages that more directly. But SCADEP is built around, like I said, addressing key bottlenecks, challenges you mentioned. From previous interventions, we realized that those key issues related to finance, for instance, have had a lot of involvement of agribusinesses and even the Diaspora colleagues to come in and invest in the sector. And so the project is designed to be able to address that bit of it. particularly the study which I said People is managing and will give more details on. Again, another response in terms of the challenges would be support to all the groups that are not really agribusinesses, say SMEs or small farmers, who would produce and would also support the agribusinesses in providing output for their processing facilities. So those are also addressed separately in another window. It's a smaller window, it's not up to 500,000 for that we have for the SLADIF. That's a maximum of 50,000, but for the smaller groups who can produce and also provide their outputs for their agribusinesses. But beyond these, we realize there are issues also relating to capacity. And like I said, the project looks at those border issues. So for instance, you have the agribusinesses, they will come in with their money to invest, and government will provide some resources, say through the SLADIF, for instance. But then, those agribusinesses will need support, say from government institutions in terms of extension services, or even from the private sector where that exists. And again, for me, that is one key entry point which in discussion, you will see that private sector can also come in terms of providing, partnering with government to provide extension services. And so this project provides support for government, the Ministry of Agriculture, provides support to SLICA, the Agribusiness Development Outfit, which also supports those agribusinesses, to be able to get them to the level in which they can function very well as agribusinesses and link them up to markets as well. So that addresses that link also. So it's really a response to those different challenges. And the issue of access to market, like I said, you would have an agribusiness establish their own farms and processing facility in the location. And then they work with our growers. If it becomes difficult for them to carry their produce from the farms to their processing facility and to the market, then it becomes a very big process. So our project also seeks to address that element by rehabilitating and maintaining feeder routes, mainly those ones linking those small farmers to the agribusinesses and to the market. So in a nutshell, I would say the project seeks to address those issues of finance, challenges to finance, challenges to access to markets, and then the capacity challenge and coordination as well, which is done through SLICA for the agribusinesses and the Federation of Farmers and the Women's Forum in the case of the small farmers and SMEs.
Yeah, thank you. I think I'll just mention two, not to say barriers, but barriers suggest something that you can't get through at all. So I'll call them maybe hurdles that we can jump.
Temporary barriers. Temporary.
Yeah. Now I think the first one is getting a matching contribution. As I said, our grants have to be matched. And we know that the access to finance and to different types of finance is very limited in Sierra Leone. We don't, for example, have a stock exchange to equity or debt finance, either one, which is why we're giving grant, which is neither. But so, access to finance is very limited. So getting your matching contribution, if you want 500,000, you have to contribute 400,000 in cash. That's a lot. So that is a hurdle you have to address. But it's not, obviously, it's not impossible. As I said in my earlier in the introduction, one of the objectives of this project is to catalyze commercial finance. And out of our 9 grantees we have so far, at least I think half of them have been able, because of the grants, to get commercial banking finance from Sierra Leone and also investors from outside of Sierra Leone. The second one I'll mention, which is a bit of a conundrum for us, is having a track record. Our fund is very limited. It's actually only 9.5 million, and we've almost spent all of it, or about to. So it's very competitive. So we're looking for, I'm not trying to say that startups are not eligible, but we need to be able, you as an applicant have to demonstrate, not just by writing a lobby concept note on paper, that you will do this, you will do that, you have this expert and so on. But you have to be able to demonstrate that you have some track record in agriculture or in agribusiness. Or even if you have expertise in other areas, management, governance, and so on, because part of what we're looking for is not just for agriculture and produce, but we need a well-run, formally well-run operation.
I don't want to pose a question, but I think when I had a side discussion about this, we are focusing on value chains, but when you look at the value chains and the provision of business services within and between the chains is an area where we need to work on, because the businesses will not survive if we don't have those appropriate services being delivered at the different points. And I think this is a good entry point for the diaspora, because you have the experience out there, you have the capacity to deliver this. This is an area that needs to be strengthened, because we'll have all of these grants, we'll provide all of these grants to people, and they will do stuff. But then when they want to back it, there's nobody to provide that service. When they want business advice, there's nowhere that they can go. It's a key point. It's a key area within the value chain work that we do, and we're not seeing that service within, or a lot of it. And there should be a lot of it for the businesses that we're developing. It should be there, and that will help them to grow and to be sustained.
Thank you for that point. I know that in Tom from Divid's previous program, they addressed some of these issues in terms of looking at the systemic issues in terms of agribusinesses. Tom, how will your program try to address these issues while bearing in mind the input that the diaspora can potentially have?
Sure, yes. So just to perhaps expand on some of these systemic issues. So I've only been in Sierra Leone for about a year and a half or so, but whenever I go to any of these forums, people always mention we need to work on rice. And I'm sure for the last 10 years or 30 years, people have been saying we need to increase the rice production, yet nothing seems to be happening. And part of the issue is very, very complex. So within rice, you've got problems in seed, you've got problems in fertilizer production, farmer training, aggregation, processing, distribution. The whole value chain needs to be worked on at the same time for it to be a profitable venture. But then outside of the value chain, there are issues in the business environment. So importing, exporting, you've got land acquisition issues, there's the EPA, there's sort of the government involvement in the agriculture sector as well. So I think from the previous program, we tried to work on the value chain specifically, but we really want to work with the government going forward. We want to understand what their vision is and help them develop work with their long-term vision for the sector, and look a bit more broadly. I think one thing that donor programs have perhaps done in the past is perhaps focused on helping a smallholder farmer go from, say, $50 a month to $60 a month. But I think if you look at where Sierra Leone wants to be in the next 30 years, do we still want 60% of people making $60 a month? Or do we want a highly productive commercial agriculture sector with agribusinesses, factories processing these plants, the crops, generating jobs in Bo, in Kenema, and so on and so forth? Do we want Sierra Leone to be exporting those high value crops to Europe and using these funds to sustain an education system and a health system? Having that long-term vision, I think, is something that the donors need to do in conjunction with the government, and to be a lot more ambitious. So I'm not sure if I answered your question there, but that's just a point I just wanted to make. I think yes, absolutely. So from our point of view, we need to engage diaspora. I think we've struggled to recruit diaspora to tap into the networks in the future. I think I would strongly encourage in the UK, in other countries in Europe, for diaspora networks to be set up sort of contact points where programs such as ours can sort of get access to diaspora networks, so we can post job descriptions and they can get to a broader range of people, so we can access these people, just the same people that we go to over and over.
Thank you. I know, Tom Roberts, you said you work with World Vision. in Southern Africa. It would be interesting if you could share some of your insights on how they were able to attract the diasporans and engage them in agribusinesses and the challenges faced in the value chain coming to scale.
We had a couple of programs, and I think we took the initial approach from, creating the what we call it, the enabling environment by flexing policies, creating the policies that will encourage the small farmers to aggregate and become businesses. And this helped a long way, because then it opened up the markets and people were willing to bring in money and work with farmers and get the products out. Organizing the farms, I think, is very, very important. When you look at if you take right across Africa, just looking at how production occurs, it's so disorganized, it's all over the place, but that does not mean we cannot make it profitable. And we did this in the South by bringing the farmers together, creating, in fact, in Malawi, there was a farmers cooperation that was created out of the farmer field schools, the producer groups. They came together, and I think it's still there. It's looking after the farmers, it's taking care of them, and this is a private business. It is not a government-supported thing. And I emphasize this because we tend to mix issues when it comes to the development of the private sector. We have the government side, and the conflict is there. The opportunities get wasted away because the policies are so conflicting. At one point in time, the government gives free produce, free inputs, and the private sector is sitting there. What is going on? And where do we make money? We need to have a clear demarcation between these things and make sure that the private sector sees profit. If they don't see it, they will not invest. If we are in the habit of flooding the market with fertilizers and free seeds, it's not going to help us to develop agriculture. And this is where in the South it is so different, because these policies are there, they have them, but there is a clear line between what the government can do. The government facilitates. The government is not a producer, it's a facilitator. And so businesses were able to thrive, people, most of the vegetables going across borders, these are small producers who band together. You take Kenya, for example, it's in the east, yeah? But you look at the development of crop flowers in Kenya, these are small people, but just banded together and
So how did those small people engage the diaspora directly? What mechanisms do you think they use? I think we spoke earlier about channels and the channels that people can access the diasporans. So what channels would, I pose this all the panelists, what channels would you say are available to access the diasporans? Would you recommend from your experiences?
Forums like this will help bring people together and have that discussion. In the South, we have a lot of these engagements and meetings with private sector organized stuff that look at possible investments and then encourage, make that link. It has to be in an open platform, and you get people engaged that way, because if people see it, then they will go for it. If they don't see it, nobody goes for it. I think this is where, again, I feel that the development partners need to step in and support that process, because it has to be an ongoing process, especially for countries that are really down there in terms of development. So help them to build that bridge and open up the private sector to different investments, whether it's diaspora or...
So, Mr. Kenneth, I know we spoke earlier about the African Development Bank, and they have an interesting way of approaching diasporans. Maybe it would be helpful to share the bank's approach with some of the other panelists.
Sure, and just briefly before I answer that question, to my previous colleagues some comment. I think that that is important. As development institutions, we have to be careful not to distort local markets. Okay. So to the extent that you bring in a bunch of free stuff, unless you're going to do that forever, you have to do that in a very systematic, organized, deliberate way. Otherwise, then all you do is you distort local markets, and that's not good for anyone. Now, getting back to your question, I think that we at the African Development Bank take the diaspora very seriously in terms of how we calculate and how we compute development. So what the bank has done is to hire a consultant that is actually from the diaspora, brought him into Abidjan, to look at avenues, to look at entry points, to look at ways that the bank can more fully and deeply engage the diaspora. We take the position that the diaspora community, many of whom come with extensive practical know-how, knowledge, skills, experience, and expertise. Okay. And we feel that it would make sense to engage the diasporas, many of whom, again, would like to get into various businesses. Farming is something that if I were to ask many diasporas, they'll say, oh, well, maybe no, and that kind of thing. But farming is becoming sexy. We are inputting technologies, we are inputting, as we talked about the e-farming, we are using various technologies, right, that will make farming much more interesting and exciting. But post-farming, when we talk about now entering into the value chain, into the various value addition, where tremendous profits can be made. I think it is immensely important that we engage the diaspora. And of course, they come with their skills. The land is here, the agricultural, the rainfall is here. We at the bank want to create an enabling environment along with the government to ensure that when the diaspora comes here, they are not frustrated.
I think perhaps they're not able to do a lot of these things because of funding or whatever, but I think that's a good point for the diaspora to discuss investment opportunities, because they have, I think, if I remember well, we did actually develop some portfolios that, investment portfolios that they were supposed to shop and look at, but it's a good point. They can actually organize the meetings. They can be targeted meetings for specific value chains or for specific investment opportunities. I think they only just need to be supported and given the room to really do the jobs.
Just very quickly, I think maybe what we need is to bridge the gap between the diaspora, the potential diaspora investor, and the needs, because how does one in the diaspora know that there's this opportunity, this gap? So there's has to be some sort of platform where one in the diaspora can through the internet click and find out what's required.
Yeah, I agree. Those linkages are important.
I was also going to speak on the similar point, because yes, we have to come to terms with the particular reality. In Sierra Leone, we would all think we have the capacity, but there are a lot of limitations of capacity here. And until you get to doing certain things, that you realize that yes, there are challenges with capacity. And so, whilst the government, I'm not speaking on behalf of the government, but whilst the government is doing its bit to create the enabling environment for the diaspora to thrive, I also want to challenge the diaspora. Most of them have extensive knowledge, and there are studies that have been done in the country, I know, for particular commodities. And I think Tom just gave us an idea of the chain, the value chain for rice, from inputs to production, right through to markets. There are studies that are being done in the country which identify entry points, potential entry points, for which even if something is being done on them now, say production for instance, people are producing and they've been producing for many years. But then there are particular things that can be done by people who know better than what is being done now. And those are entry points that the diaspora can consider. For instance, we struggle a whole lot with inputs. Say seed rights, for instance. The focus has been encouraging the public sector institutions to produce seed. But then, private sector can come in very strongly and multiply seed and sell. I mean, those are areas which are new, and I know one or two people who are venturing into that. And I tell you, it becomes very profitable over time. So, my point is, there are various studies which the diaspora can also make an effort to find out about. I know as we speak, we are supporting a study for vegetables, for instance, to advise, to give advice on which is more profitable amongst the range of vegetables that you have. Is it pepper? Everybody talks about vegetable. Or is it pepper or eggplant or okra? When a study like that comes out, the results are out, it is for people to identify where they can come in and make as much returns as they possibly can. And I think Tom also mentioned the issue of high impact commodities. We've all been talking about the rice and the cassava, but there are other products which are export oriented, which have been done elsewhere. And you don't have to reinvent here, but the records are there. We can all make an effort to go into literature and understand what is being done elsewhere, which we can also bring in to Sierra Leone to create an impact.
I had quickly talk about SLADEF, and I want to talk to diaspora and ask this question. It is not a rocket science. It's down to earth and it is real. I stand in here as I gave my presentation yesterday. I've just got $620,000 matching grant from SLADEF, so it is something real. Diasporans will heard a lot about. Sierra Leoneans can say this, but it's not existing. I just want to allay your fear. It is real, and I am a testimony of it. I want to ask Kenneth this question, man from the African Development Bank. I have a 3-year contract with SLADEF implementing my project. Alongside the road, I realized that there is a gap. I'm in a rice value chain business. And for me to speed up my production and adding value to rice, I realized that there is a gap which needs to be filled. And I don't want to revert to SLADEF because their funds are limited. Can ADB work alongside with World Bank? Should I make application? If yes is your answer, how? Is it a grant, a matching grant, or a loan? I want to know that. Thank you.
So let me start by saying that the African Development Bank, yes, does work with development partners, of which one of them is in fact the World Bank. So there have been numerous projects where we have worked together, whether it be parallel financing or co-financing, because we don't believe that any one development institution can handle everything, while we still maintain that we are the premier development bank on this continent. Now, more specifically, I think it's rather difficult to answer individual questions. So, the bank obviously does a couple of things. The first is what we call stock and operation, where we work directly with various governments to ensure that we have the right tools, enabling environments is in place, and to help to facilitate a variety, a host, a range of value chain opportunities. We also have, private sector windows. We also have what we call transitional state funding, where we look at about 20, we actually count about 20 countries that we consider to be in somewhat varying levels of fragility, and so we have a special fund for that as well. So what I would ask you to do is maybe, because rather than speak to one specific case, I'll be happy to talk to you and get, more insights into your specific situation, and perhaps I think we can do something together. Okay?
Thank you. Another question.
a lot of your information you've given us has to do with grant. I'm looking at myself as a diaspora, potential diaspora investor, right? I may not be a farmer, or I may not want to do farming, but I may have money to invest into some business that's doing farming or into some agro-business. How do I go about doing that? And besides trying to invest money into some business that exists, what about some of my other colleagues who will want to, they have the skills, they want to come in country, they want to team up, they want to form a company, and they want to do what we are used to doing in the diaspora, which is I write my business plan, I go to a bank, I go through some process, they probably check my credit, they validate that I am credible enough or they can trust me based on my experience and track record from some other things, and then give me a loan at an interest rate that I can actually manage as opposed to the 30% today. What can you do to help us get loans from banks instead of grants? Because I don't believe in grants. It's free money, you can do whatever you want with it. It's a loan, it's not free money, you have to pay it back, you'll be more serious about it. Thank you.
Some of what you're asking for relates to setting up of a business and so on. Like I noticed the corporate affairs chief executive here, so she might have something to say about that. But I'll focus in on this aspect of grants and loans. Speaking for our project at least, the grant is really a catalyst to assist investors or agribusinesses get a loan. It's not sustainable, it's not a long-term thing, it has to stop. It's not indefinite. So I do get your point. It has to be commercialization. Now, our project helps because we have also, I won't say partnered, but we have had discussions with the Sierra Leone Association of Commercial Banks. And there is sort of understanding that if we give somebody a grant from our project, then that is some comfort to the commercial bank to grant a loan based on the fact that that grantee has received a grant or will be receiving a grant from us. As I said, I think about at least 4 or 5 of our 9 grantees who have been able to get bank loans here. Of course, bank loans are not the only form of financing. There are also investors like the Diaspora we're talking about. But if you have your own capital, you can invest that. But in terms of getting a loan, that's the best I think our project can do. We have a relationship with the banking association, and they have so far they seem to have been responding in terms of working with the grantees. A lot of the other issues we talked about, I think, are outside, not just about getting loans or accessing finance.
Maybe just to add, it's comforting to know that there are people who maybe go for the loans as opposed to the grants. But like you said, the grant was just to start off the process, because again, we believe, like it says, it's a 50-50 match. So if you were to go for a loan that was 30%, like you were saying, if 50% of your funding is coming in as a grant, somehow somebody can say you're getting a 15% interest rate on the loan element of it. If your match is actually a loan. But then going forward, I know the Ministry of Agriculture is currently developing another program with the bank, which will address some elements like these. So like you said, you have your money or you can access resources from somewhere, but you don't want to get into the farming yourself. There are services that you can provide as an agribusiness. So you're not necessarily cultivating, but you are providing services to the farmers. And for instance, one of the programs that we'll get in that project, which we expect will be approved this year, by the end of the year, say introducing a tractor scheme. It's called Tractor, and I think the colleagues from the should be familiar with it. It's been introduced already in countries like Nigeria, in which you provide tractor services to the farmers. So you are not cultivating as such, but they need that service. And the project will support you to set up a scheme like that, and then you offer the services to the actual producer. So that happens for other areas along the chain. So not everybody has to go into production as such, but there are areas along the chain where you can come in and give your own contributions.
Excellent question, excellent point. So yes, if your business has been surviving on sort of grant financing for the last 10 years, and then you go to a bank to try and get commercial financing, they'll look at you and say, well, you're not a business, you're a project. So one of the key aspects of our program is to work with firms, and we may provide a range of assistance, from technical assistance to matching grants to loan guarantees. But the objective is in a 3 to 5 year horizon to get the firm to a point where it can attract commercial financing. It might be concessional slightly, but proper financing. So it might be slightly concessional. The UK has for example, CDC Group, which provides sort of debt and equity to businesses, but their ticket size is often much higher than the sort of startup size of a business here. So they'd be looking at the sort of $5 million, $10 million mark, which is way too much for them here. So we're sort of trying to bridge the gap there. I would say that though, you do have a point. For firms coming at this sort of maybe tens of thousands of dollars range, with no track record but want to start up, there is a slight gap there on financing from development institutions. And I think it's a good challenge for us to think about how we can adjust our risk tolerances to work with these firms, and how we can get assurances, the assurances we need to perhaps take a punt and work with them to that kind of level.
So coming back to your question again, I think an important point to raise was the high interest rates. And one of the reasons, I think, is that well, commercial financing, especially from banks, well, generally it's very limited. The products that we have, it's a one-size-fits-all. That's one problem. I mean, agricultural financing has to have its own special product. I mean, just like housing finance in developed economies. Similarly, agricultural financing is different. You can't give a loan to agriculture and expect payments every month or things like that. So it's an issue of the lack of appropriate products, but also inefficiency in the banking system. That's why the interest rates are high.
Somebody said, how do you get commodities that you can ensure that are wholesome from its source? Somebody mentioned yesterday that in Nigeria there is something called NAFDAC. The question, the issue is, do we have a quality infrastructure program in Sierra Leone? What does that mean? Do we have an infrastructure that makes sure that commodities that leave Sierra Leone for export are traceable to single specific farmers? Issues of traceability are key. Issues of conformity assessment are key. Issues of standards are key. And issues of certification are very important. That is what brings business to you. If you cannot, in this world, global value chain world, trace commodities, there is no guarantee that those commodities are safe for human consumption. So, that is one critical thing that we need to entrench in the Sierra Leonean system to be able to ensure that our private sector people can do business that is globally recognized. Second is, we keep telling the Diaspora people, come back home and invest. If you have to tell them to come back home and invest, somebody said yesterday again, the issue of the fact that there are challenges. The person comes home to build her own road or his own road, bring down his own electricity, make sure that the drainage systems are working before he can put his or her investment down. Why don't you do agro-industrial zones that will provide those common facilities for your diaspora to just come home and plug and play? This is where the world is going. Just read the Asian Tigers. South Korea, as I'm talking to you, currently is advertising 5 to 7 agro-industrial zones. The world is going that way. And that is the only way you can ask someone to come home and invest, and then he knows he's coming home to put his factory somewhere with all the knowledge he has. So it's just a comment for you to understand that there are ways to get the private sector, to increase your private sector, to increase investments in agro industries, and to make sure that the commodities that leave Sierra Leone is not only acceptable in Sierra Leone, but acceptable globally. Thank you very much.
So here are a couple of answers to your question. The first is the African Development Bank puts together, and I believe this is publicly available, the country strategy paper. Yeah, the country strategy paper, which is available on our website, identifies, because this is something that is co-produced by the African Development Bank and the government, so you clearly understand what the priorities are of the government, right? So if the priority is agriculture rights, we know that there's going to be a lot of resources placed within those sectors. So that is one potential ways to do that. Another one is that as a bank, we put together a range of studies across multiple sectors, right? And these are studies that we spend a lot of time, a lot of energy, a lot of money in putting together, which you can basically get for free. And these studies can help you in identifying opportunities. Finally, there is a question about bank interest rates. There have been situations where the African Development Bank works with local banks, right, where we can fund local banks, but give them the clear instructions that interest rates should not be above a certain level. Because obviously, if the interest rate is too high, then it becomes a significant obstacle to economic development and growth. And finally, let me say that I commend the gentleman that talked about, not wanting grants but loans. There's something that is called moral hazard. And what a moral hazard is, for those of you who are not familiar with that term, it is a situation where somebody gets basically free money, they have no stake in the game, right? And they take crazy risks, they do things that they would not have done if it were coming from their pocket. That's called moral hazard. So I commend you for saying that you want a loan and not a grant. Even though grants has its place, don't get me wrong, it's very important, but it should only be a temporary stepping stone.
Thank you. Just for final remarks, can all the panelists just end by telling the audience, how can the audience who are from the diaspora get involved in your programs or your fund? Like, what would the one takeaway thing be? Beyond today, how can they get involved? Can I start with Tom?
We have been directed at my project. Well, buying into our process, our project is, I guess the entry point is really to go on our website, which you can take down the website now, SLADF SLADF-SL.org. That will tell you, how you can apply, and even if you don't want to apply directly yourself, it will give you an idea of what the process is, and maybe through that you can get in touch with other people via the website. I think that's as much as I can say really in terms of how you gain access to ours. And of course, through that, you can also contact us directly. Our contact details, emails, and telephone numbers, I think, are on the website.
Thank you. So, should we have the...
Yes, so, and the question is, how can Diaspora get involved in our programs? So, I think I'll just reiterate the previous gentleman's comments. Visit adiasporai.com. I'll certainly be looking at when we're looking to recruit, and also I'll be speaking to the IOM, and we'll ask if we can communicate through the channels that got to everyone here today. I would also like to make the point, though, that development programs absorbing high quality staff is not where we want to be. We want for you to be investing and working in actual businesses. So while a development program may be a stepping stone for Diaspora thinking about coming back to Sierra Leone, and you want maybe a more a less risky sort of entry point into the country, our program will aim to give you a standing point. Hopefully, if you're a recent graduate, develop your skills to a point where you can then invest in the business and sort of enter the private sector in Sierra Leone, because obviously Sierra Leone is driven by the private sector, not the donors. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. What we expect Diaspora to do, I would say information. Seek information. Information is everywhere, but there's also things we can do, because it's also very difficult to be running around everywhere just finding information. But I believe there are institutions in the country which have a mandate to also work with you in that process. I know institutions like Sleeper, I know Speaker, it's also there to work with agribusinesses, and particularly people from the diaspora. And I believe the organizers of this forum would also help and is put together. I know that's part of their, I believe that's part of their plan, to put together the discussions here and take the discussion further, targeting respective institutions. We as agents also working in different programs would be ready to work with you, because it's only through initiatives like this, and I'm bold to say that these days the government is realizing that, particularly for the agricultural sector, we can only make headway if we partner with the private sector. And so we who are also working in the public institutions have that willingness to work with you from the private sector to be able to achieve our common objectives. Thank you.
Thank you. I think I'd probably answer this with the last question, with the last comment. But I think I would also add that you need to think carefully about your role as diasporans in agribusiness in Sierra Leone, especially given the fact that you're not resident here. So you need to think outside the box. You can't own a farm and live out of the country and, hope for the best. So I would suggest, for example, you think about things like what can we do in the area of especially value addition, packaging, or maybe you act as importers of goods exported from Sierra Leone, or of agricultural goods exported from Sierra Leone. In that way you have an interest, because you will need to ensure that what is being exported from Sierra Leone is of the quality required wherever you are. So think outside the box as to what your involvement can be in agriculture, but living in the diaspora.
I don't want to say my colleagues have said everything that I wanted to say, but very interesting points. I think we don't want to reinvent the wheel. I think we do have institutions in the country that need to be beefed up and need to be refocused so that they address the needs of the diaspora, especially those who want to come and invest. One thing that I worry about, and my colleague over here just mentioned, there are studies all over the place. Can we have a central depository? We have Sleeper, we have Sleeper. Can they pull together all of these studies so that people can go to their websites and have these things there? We lose a lot of knowledge in this country. People come and go. We do things and we go away with the knowledge. We need to start to think of a national knowledge base where we put these things that have worked and guidelines as to what has not worked. We need to do that so that we can pull the diaspora to invest in the economy. I want to make a special appeal to the women out there in the diaspora. Bridge the gap between yourselves and the women in the rural communities. They are farmers, they are the producers. Don't mind us men who talk about being farmers. It's the women who are really doing the job. So it's much easier for you to link up, help them to do it, you know what is involved, and we will do the rest of it, because I think there is also a little bit that the government needs to do in terms of creating that enabling environment, and also helping small farmers to become businesses, legitimate businesses, not registered with social welfare or any other person, but having a business license that entitles them to a lot of different things, and creating also the environment for them to thrive, like provide tax exempts. And I think this is something we also did not talk about when we were looking at what the diaspora will also be looking at. I mean, there are little packages that I think should be provided, and I think these are things that will attract you to invest. We need to look at that, and the government also needs to support that and create that environment. But I think that we are all in this together. We need to look at those institutions that are there already rather than creating new institutions, and let's just link up and build.
Thank you. First off, let me just say that I fully support and endorse my colleagues' statements in creating a national database where it becomes a one-stop shop where one can go in and get the information that one needs to look at various opportunities. Now, from the African Development Bank's perspective, once again, there are 5 priority areas: power and light of Africa, feed Africa, industrialize Africa, integrate Africa, improve the quality of life of Africans. Of these 5, there is significant opportunity in the first 2. Feed Africa and industrialize Africa. Tremendous opportunities as an entry point. Now, the President of the African Development Bank, and indeed the bank as a whole, takes the development of Africa very seriously. So we are here to work with you. We are here to enable you. As we work with various governments, the ultimate goal is to enable the private sector. There are very few developed countries, right, that are developed solely based by the government's own initiatives. The government cannot employ as many people as the private sector. It simply doesn't work. So whatever we do, however we do it, it is ultimately to empower the private sector, and that is you and that is everyone in this room. Africa is on its path to prosperity, but we must do the right thing. We must enable the continent. We must ensure that we stop sending out raw materials. We must focus on value additions in country. We must focus on local content, and together we will make this very dynamic continent reach and realize its full potential. Thank you.